Why is he not being groomed to start for the first game of the season?
You're listening to the What the Elf Was That podcast, an iconoclastic look at the latest Cleveland Browns news. The What the Elf Was That podcast is part of the Fanatical Elves podcast network, a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Here's your host, Joel Cade.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of What the Elf Was That? Join me here. I'm Joel Cade, your host, aka the left guard. Um, it's the summer, folks. It's that time where there are no NFL news. So we can sit here and try to drone on and make up games and make up lists and do whatever, people on this time period do. But I thought, because this is my podcast and I can do whatever I want, that we would do some education. So I'm going to do some summer school edition of What the Elf Was That? And I'm going to kind of tackle that question I just talked about at the beginning. Why is it that Shador Sanders, if we think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, which some people do, why is he not being groomed to start the season for the Cleveland Browns? Well, there's an answer to this. And I think the best way to get at that answer is to get at what the Browns are attempting to do this next year. One, offense, how Shador Sanders fits into that offense. Then I thought maybe we would talk about, obviously not just to Shador Sanders, but the other quarterbacks. Might be surprised to find that Dylan Gabriel fits this offense really well. Then I thought maybe we'd look at some of the defense, all this here and what we're calling summer school. So here we go. Let's start with the offense. Let's start with part one, fundamentals of the outside zone offense. So the Cleveland Browns are going back to this run heavy West Coast style passing, outside zone play action passing offense. Now that sounds like a lot. So let's just break some of this down real quick. Outside zone. That's a kind of running play that, well, we'll just take it for a second. The offense is tailored to maximize the quarterback and the offensive line. And it depends on really good offensive line play, but not necessarily really good quarterback play. If you remember correctly, some of you may remember way back in the day when Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator with the Cleveland Browns, where he wanted to minimize the impact of the quarterback by running this outside zone scheme. So if you're a team, you got some quarterback issues, the outside zone may not be the best thing. So the basic scheme is a basically West Coast outside zone situation. Think of quick, short passes and a run game that stretches the defense horizontally, meaning east to west, before attacking vertically. So the idea is to attack the sidelines, spread the defense out, find a hole in there, then attack that vertically. So the run philosophy is you need, well, the run philosophy as I just described it, you spread the defense out, then attack vertically. So that's the outside zone, inside zone. They'll run some duo out of that. To make that work, you have to have athletic offensive linemen and running backs with good vision. That's why Nick Chubb has been very good in this offense, because there have been athletic running offensive linemen with vision, very good vision running backs. We're not going to talk about our friend Jerome Ford, who I think lacks that vision, but that's why we drafted two running backs. All right, so the concepts, right? So passing concepts is a very quarterback dependent situation, and by that I mean there's lots of bootlegs, rollouts, play action passes to keep linebackers honest and give quarterbacks greater and better and cleaner reads. So the Browns will get under center. They'll have a rollout, something to get the quarterback out of the pocket, play action pass, something to influence the defense so that it doesn't become the quarterback standing back there in shotgun, dissecting a defense and throwing the ball all over the yard. Now, why would you not want to do that? Right? Don't we see Patrick Mahomes do that? There are other quarterbacks that just sat back and read a defense. Peyton Manning. Tom Brady. Well, in this day and age, okay, defenses are just too smart for that. You can hide things, move things post snap. There's a whole lot of ways the defense can disguise what it's doing. And unless your ability to read a defense pre snap and read a defense post snap is better than the defense's ability to plan pre snap and disguise post snap, it's going to be a long uphill battle. The days of the 3-step, 5-step quarterback that drops back and passes, those days are kind of just gone. So you got to have some kind of play action, some kind of schematic way of addressing um, influencing the defense to get you where you want them. Even Patrick Mahomes sits and does this, right? And of course, the book on Mahomes is to make him sit back in the pocket, read the defense, and beat you. So he does it, but he doesn't do it to a great extent. What he does well are these bootlegs, rollouts, play action passes, things that schematically affect the defense to create throwing lanes and the ability to get receivers open. So how do you do that? How do you through a an outside zone, how do you affect the defense? Well, this is through formations, right? So you want to use 12 personnel, which is one wide receiver and two tight ends, 11 personnel, which will give you three wide receivers and one um, running back. I'm sorry, two running backs, one running back, one tight end. 21 would give you two tight ends, one. I'm out of my mind today. So essentially you want to use players to manipulate formations. You have tight ends that can catch passes and block. Those tight ends that can catch passes go out and line up in wide receiver. They come in and line up a tight end on the line. They'll line up as an H back. They'll line up as a wing back. They'll even line up in the backfield as a running back, right? So you're trying to have personnel that can do multiple things, line up in multiple positions to confuse the defense as to what the formation is in terms of, is that player who is normally a tight end going to run a route as a wide receiver? Are they going to come in, line up tight? Because defenses have to play different defenses planned on that. So you're using formations and personnel in an attempt to get the defense to tip its hand or do something that it's not good at doing or wants to do. So right now, Kevin Stefanski, he's in that Kyle Shanahan outside zone uh, uh, coaching tree. He's kind of modernized the Mike or Gary Kubiak and Mike Shanahan offense. It's a lot of running, a lot of play action, and you're basically beating the defense to a pulp with that kind of stuff. All right, so for right now, let's take our quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and we're going to look at some of the philosophical roots of this offense, what it's attempting to accomplish, and why. And then we'll see if our quarterbacks, or maybe we'll pass that off till next week. We'll find out. All right, everybody, station break. All right, and we're back. Make sure that you guys go to our sponsors. That's how we keep making our millions and billions of dollars on podcasts. If you believe that, you're crazy. We just do this for fun. But, your support helps. So make sure you listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. That really does help. All right, so we're looking at the outside zone offense. The philosophical roots of the outside zone offense comes from that Mike Shanahan outside zone system. It was created along with Gary Kubiak way back in the day with the Denver Broncos. You guys may remember John Elway and the Denver Broncos running that play action offense. So you have that as you're running outside zone, you're running zone plays, you're running the inside zone to complement it, and you're running the duo to complement on short rushing situations. In the passing game, the backbone of the passing game is the West Coast offense. Now, the West Coast offense, this think of John Gruden when you think of West Coast offense, except he never adapted. But West Coast offense, this is the quick passing game. You have both sides of the field on the offense running the same concepts to the left side and the right side. And that pre snap, the quarterback wants to look and see which concept makes the most sense and then attack that side of the field with that concept. That's the beginnings of what a West Coast offense was. It was very parallel, very cut and dry. You pick left, you pick right, depending on what the defense gives you, and you go at it. This has changed over the years, particularly with the advent of the bunch formation, the uses that you can get out of the bunch formation. But it's changed in effect that there's more than just this parallel situation on each side of the field. You may run a man concept on the left side and a zone concept on the right side. And depending pre-snap, if you get zone or man, you may choose to throw on each side of the ball, either side of the field. So what you're looking for here in the West Coast system, it's timing routes, short routes, and route combinations designed to open up passing lanes. You combine this with play action passing in an attempt to influence linebackers to come up, which would create the passing lane behind, which would be hit on time by a quarterback in rhythm. That's the basic concept. So, obviously, with that, the star of the offense is the running game. This is a running offense. Now, interestingly enough, I mentioned a few weeks back, if you were paying attention, that the NFL has become more of a running league. For the longest time, the trend has been pass, 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 and offenses have spread out. They've done more passing, more concepts. As a result, the defense's nickel package, which brings in basically two safeties and three corners, that's why it's called nickel five. Um, those have become kind of your standard base packages. Offenses are adjusting to that in the NFL and are looking to take advantage of that by running. This is the more teams have run more often in the NFL than they have in the last 5 years, just last year alone. So the run is making a comeback. With the outside zone, the offense is purely based on the run. The run first, throw a second off of that initial run. So the core concepts of it are the outside zone. The idea is you stretch the defense horizontally from sideline to sideline. Offensive linemen are moving laterally, initially laterally, to get movement horizontally to create lanes. The defense in that point is trying to maintain what's called gap integrity, making sure that there is no hole for that running back to go through. So that's the basic concept. The inside is the same kind of concept, except the running back's initial path, instead of being between the offensive tackle and the tight end, is actually between the guard and the tackle. So it's inside. It has different reads in terms of what the running back is doing, but the offensive line, some variation in blocking, but not a whole lot. They also run the power or the duo. These are tend to be short yardage. Um, the idea here is that for the duo, you get two double teams up the middle with your guards and your tackles. You're just double teaming defensive linemen and hope to get a movement to get 2 or 3 yards. The power concepts, this is a kind of like if you run outside zone as zone concepts, you also have power concepts. And the Browns have done a really good job of sprinkling in or using power concepts in the NFL. And the power concept in the NFL has really made a comeback. It really is making a comeback because defensive linemen have become smaller and lighter and more athletic in an attempt to stop these zone offenses. Well, a power concept basically has a double team at the point of attack. You pull a guard or a tackle or even your center to the other side and blindside that defensive tackle or defensive lineman. If they're not big and husky and can hold up to it, you can blindside one of these teams, one of these kids, one of these players, and get a good play. The other things going on with the NFL is that there's an increase in what we call these attacking defenses. And the Browns do this, okay, where a defensive lineman or a linebacker is assigned to a gap and they attack that gap. They want to get upfield and disrupt. Well, anytime you have a team going upfield and disrupting, they're susceptible to a trap, a power, because they're not looking to the inside to see if somebody's coming after them. So this has become a go-to kind of play against defenses that like to attack, which has become the mode of operation given the passing that's been going on for the last 4 or 5 years. So the running game is starting to come back and say, well, we're just going to trap you, pin and pull you, and gain yardage that way. It's been very successful. As a corollary to the power is the counter. The counter basically shows one backfield motion and then runs the ball the opposite direction. So you give one look and then you do the opposite. The point here is to influence linebackers, keep linebackers from fast flowing. By fast flowing, I mean, oh, we've seen this look. The ball's going to go over here. Let's just run over here. So if you get a linebacker playing like this, that he's running straight to a spot as soon as the ball snapped, you can take advantage of that by running what's called a counter, where you give him that look, force him to run or influence him to run to that spot, then run the ball in the other direction for a lot of yards. So the offenses will use counters, except counters aren't the bread and butter. The bread and butter is the power. So if the power works, the counter off of that power is the change of pace. All right. So why does the outside zone work? You need two things to make the outside zone running play work. One, you need athletic offensive linemen. In particular, you need good guards, people who line up next to the center, offensive guards, left guard, right guard. As you know, I am the left guard. I played left guard. And the primary purpose of the guard in the zone play is to pull and hit people. But you also, that's in the power, but in the outside zone, you need guards that are athletic enough to do what's called a reach block. And in particular, you have to reach block the three technique. Now, the three technique lines up on the outside shoulder of an offensive tackle. If it's an outside zone, that three technique is the guy the defense needs to make that play. So you need an offensive tackle that can take the first step, get across the face of that three technique, prevent him from coming upfield and into the backfield and disrupting, so that outside zone can take place. And the Browns have two very good guards in Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller who can make that happen. The other thing you need to make this zone work are running backs. You need a running back that has excellent vision, who can see the play develop and then cut back against the grain, or hit it outside, hit it straight, cut it back against the grain. Depends on what the play calls for, or what the read is, how the defense is playing it. You need a running back that can see this. This is my frustration, by the way, with Jerome Ford. I don't think he sees anything. I think his best games have come when the Browns are running power with a defined hole that the ball's going through. If he has to sit there and read a defense and figure out where he's going to go, he's not going to be good at it. A master of this, by the way, was Nick Chubb. He was very, very good at reading the defense and making the right hole. So the Browns this year, by the way, have two rookie running backs, which will make this an interesting season, because we have to watch, while we watch rookies learn the NFL way of finding a hole, making a cut, and running down the field. If you guys remember Nick Chubb, with how great he was, rarely played his rookie season. And I know a lot of people were frustrated with I can't 131 guy Hugh Jackson for not playing him as much, but he has to learn as well how to hit those holes, and his vision needed to increase and get better as he came in from Georgia into the NFL. So now we're looking at two rookies in an offense designed to showcase running backs. So this is going to be an interesting year for the Browns, but this is kind of where they're going. So Jerome Ford's going to get a lot of action this year, which is going to frustrate me. You're going to get a lot of action out of those rookie running backs. So it's going to take a little bit of adjustment before these rookies also get ready to play. Okay, off of all the running, you have the play action passing. Now, these are the bootlegs and the rollouts. These are high percentage throws for the quarterbacks while moving out of the pocket. Often you'll see flood concepts. You roll the quarterback one way, you run a high, middle, and low route, which is a flood concept to the direction that the quarterback is rolling. You often get deep crossers and deep overs. The backside, deep backside, middle of the field pass is a huge concept. What you do is you flood one side, then you have a wide receiver running a deep end on the other side, and that backside deep end is really a big hitter for this offense. So what you're trying to do with the deep crossers and the overs is exploit safeties who bite on a run fake. So if you are running the ball 6 out of 10 plays and then you fake a run and then try to throw the deep pass, you're going to get linebackers coming up, you're going to get safeties coming up. That's when you throw the deep crosser, the deep overs, the streaks, the posts in an attempt to catch a big play. But those big plays aren't dependent on wide receivers outrunning somebody, or nor are they dependent on the scheme, the bumps, the influence routes. You're hoping to influence the defense to give you what you want by selling the run at them. This also works for the short passing game, which is the slants, the hitches, the stick routes. They're all rhythm based passing. So you fake, set up in the pocket, throw. The ability to get that pass is not dependent on how how good of a quarterback you are. Can you drop back 3 steps and throw it in the spot? It's dependent on how well that fake is affected. How effective is the running game that allows the quarterback time to execute an excellent fake, but then draws the defenders up for the quick, easy pass over the middle. So, in essence, that's how the passing game works. It's off the play action. It's off a quarterback faking a run and then either ISO or dropping back into a pocket or running a bootleg in an attempt to take advantage of a team that's overplaying the run. Now, if you're a defense, you think, oh, well, screw this, we're not going to overplay the run, then you're going to sit there and watch a running back, like Dick Chubb, just destroy a defense like Pac-Man, just eating up all the yards. We've seen this from Nick Chubb, right? Like he just gets the ball and just takes off. It's because defenses are starting to get hurt by a quarterback who can understand play action, execute play action, and then turn around and beat you deep because you're overplaying the run. So, again, formations, you're talking about 12, one running back, two tight ends. If you can use your tight ends as wide receivers, that helps you. 11 personnel with one running back, one tight end, and three wide receivers. The Browns don't really run 13 a lot. That's, one running back, one tight end. That's the 11. And if you have five specialty players, you're talking about three wide receivers. So if you say something like 11 personnel, the first number is your running back, the second number is your tight end. Okay. The Browns will often run heavy sets. So 21, 22 personnel, two running backs, two tight ends. That's where the Browns really get going. They also tend to do pre snap motion, but not a lot of it. The reason you have pre snap motion is to get a defense to declare what they're in. So if you take a wide receiver and you run them across the field, if a cornerback follows them, you're in man. If they don't, there's a good guess you're in zone, unless they've got a defense set up in a situation where the man coverage just shifts to the other side. So if you start to see shifting in motion, what you're looking for is how the defense reacts to that stuff. So basically, the offense with all that stuff, the idea behind the whole situation is to attack with the running game, stretch the defense horizontally, make the defense run sideline to sideline and wear them out. Once you get them running sideline to sideline and overthinking, over anticipating the sideline to sideline, you run that fake and then you start stretching the defense vertically with deep passes off the play action. Suck those linebackers in, get them coming after the run, then start throwing the ball behind them. And when that starts to fade out, you start using the boots, the reverses, the jet motion, things that just mess with the defense's head. So let's say you give the exact same motion, but instead of setting up in the pocket, you bootleg the opposite way. Generally, the quarterback, if you're lucky, is running by himself. There's usually a route or two out there. The quarterback can run or pass. Um, just kind of depends on how the defense is reacting. The offense wants to keep the ball. It is a ball. It is an old school control the ball, control the defense with formations and play action passing, and just grind and grind and grind. It is a grinding offense. Okay. That's what you're looking to do. Now, what stops this offense? Well, if your offensive line falls apart, there's a problem. Or if you got big fat dudes that can't move, that's a problem. Okay. If you're forced into obvious passing situations like third and long, the system starts to break down because the whole idea is that they're running the ball to stay ahead of the sticks, meaning you want to be in second and short, third and short. If you start getting in first and long or second and long, third and long, this offense is going to start to fall apart. So it has its kind of old school element and its old school way of doing things. All right, in summary, just in case you want to know, it's an outside zone play action West Coast derived offense. It's built to disguise use of efficient running backs, athletic linemen, and tight ends who can line up all over the field. All right, the idea is to make the defense one dimensional. Now, so where does in that whole situation, where do our quarterbacks fit into that? Who can we use at quarterback between Flacco, Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shador Sanders that actually fits this offense? Well, we're getting about 27 minutes in, so I'm going to table that for next week's discussion. But now you have at least a basic understanding of the outside zone offense. And then summer school part two, we're going to talk about quarterbacks. I think we may get into some running backs. Then we want to get into the attacking 4-4, 4-3 defense that the Browns use under Jim Schwartz. But for now, let's go to our favorite segment of the day because you guys know I love nothing more than to hate on the Ravens.
I'm actually a Ravens fan.
Go to hell.
That's right. They can go there. Oh, the Ravens. So you guys know I'm a massive Browns fan, and I hate the Ravens. I hate the Ravens. You know, and it goes back to my college days when I'm in the college and the Browns move and they end up becoming the Ravens, and then the NFL screws the Browns over. And coming back in '99, they've had very little chance to succeed. They were set up to fail. And the greed and the crap of the NFL have really screwed over the Browns. Then they've decided to trip themselves up for all these years. And I think they're finally just now starting to figure out we need continuity and we need intelligent people in positions. But the Ravens. So the big deal for the Ravens this week was that they signed Jair Alexander. And the headline being sign Jair Alexander and reunites him with Lamar Jackson. First of all, Jair Alexander plays on defense. He's not reunited with Lamar Jackson. They're not going to be on the field at the same time. So who the heck cares? The Ravens are giving him a $4 million base plus $2 million in performance incentives, essentially, or it's reported that he turned around more lucrative offers to join the Super Bowl contender along with his close friend Lamar Jackson. Okay, whatever. First of all, just going to point out that the Ravens had the 31st defense against the pass. That's right. They had the second worst defense against the pass. They suck. And you have to ask yourself, how can the Ravens suck so bad at pass and defense when they have Marlon Humphrey? Marlon Humphreys is the most hyped individual in the NFL. The guy is mediocre at best. Teams target him on a regular basis. They need help in the secondary. If they didn't need help, they wouldn't be the 31st ranked defense against the pass in the NFL. So, whatever. Marlon Humphreys does come out and say, oh, we're going to be a fun secondary. Well, I'm sure they have a lot of fun chasing people down from behind, and Marlon Humphrey can school Jair Alexander, who's actually a decent cornerback, on how to grab people and hold them and not get caught. And if you do get caught, to whine like a little baby so that you don't ever get called again. Anyway, on to Jair Alexander. Alexander's a two-time Pro Bowler. Had a pretty good career with the Packers. The problem with Alexander was that he was getting paid a lot by the Packers and had only played in 14 games in the last almost 2 seasons due to injuries and suspension. So if he can stay healthy, he can join Marlon Humphrey for whatever that means, and maybe start alongside Nate Wiggins, who they just drafted, who I think the jury is out on Nate Wiggins. I'm not sold on him yet, but again, that's probably why they're the 31st ranked defense on passing. I expect the Ravens will be a better passing defense next year, but up until then, I mean, they got to go out and prove it. Just saying, hey, we got Marlon Humphrey isn't going to cut it. Plus, if Marlon Humphrey and that defense was that good, why are you signing Jair Alexander? All right. So the Ravens. Why did Jair Alexander get suspended in 2023? That is the question, right? He missed a game due to suspension. In December of 2023, the Green Bay Packers suspended Alexander for conduct detrimental to the team. In connection with a coin toss incident. Okay, here's what happened. Alexander wasn't the captain, but he decided he's going to stroll out there in week 16 of 2023 to be a part of the coin toss. So he goes out there, calls the toss, then tells the official, and I quote, "We want to be on defense." Now, if you guys know anything about the coin toss, you have a few options. You have take the ball, take defense, defer, you can kick, or kicking is a part of being on defense, in the direction you want to go. So you can pick where you want your end zone. Do you want to defend the north? Do you want to defend the south? Alexander runs out there like a moron and says, we want to be on defense, which means they won the toss and chose to go on defense, which gave the Panthers the ball to start the game. And then the Panthers had the choice to start the second half, to which they, like any other intelligent group out there, took the ball. So because Alexander's out there doing his own thing, which, by the way, this makes him fit perfectly with the Ravens. He's going to go out there, do his own thing, get into fights, argue, scream, yell, which is what Alexander does. The Packers decided after this, we're just gonna suspend him. We got to get through to this guy. He can't go out there just be a me player, be a selfish me player, and hurt our team in the process. So Coach Matt LaFleur decided he was going to just suspend him. And he says this isn't just, LaFleur emphasized this was not a one-time incident. It wasn't an isolated incident. It is a pattern of behavior from Jair Alexander. Combine that with being hurt, and you wonder why nobody wants to deal with him, and being paid a lot. So the Packers are like, screw it. We're not going to sit here and eat this guy's money, because they didn't have to, because he wasn't guaranteed at that point in his contract, and have this headache on our team, this me person, this knucklehead almost to the level of Myles Garrett knuckleheadness, and take this on. So like, screw it. We'll let him go. So interestingly for the Ravens, now they're trying to load up on defense, and everybody, of course, is like, oh my gosh, it's the Ravens. They're so great. Well, you're stacking up with people like Alexander, and you're taking chances on guys like Alexander because your defense isn't that great. Okay. And you need the help. All right, everybody, that's what we got for the day. Next week, we'll come back. We'll catch up on some quarterbacks and how they fit into the outside zone offense, and we'll roll from there. All right, everybody, have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the What the Elf Was That podcast. Please like, subscribe, and tell all your friends to give a listen. You can follow host Joel Cade on Twitter @TheLeftGuard.